Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Why not? We go crazy.
So I'm here with, this is not a conversation, not a connection, and not a show. I'm here with my
Not a
good
show.
friend, probably one of my oldest friends, Josh Blackburn. When's the first time you remember us meeting?
Ooh.
I feel was it in the dorms because you weren't on my hall. You were
It
on a
it would
different
have been
hall.
in the dorm. So like August, like late August of '99.
Wait, were you 2A? You were 2A. You and Colin.
Jared.
Oh, Jared. Oh, yeah, you were my neighbor.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We're right next
You and
door. Yeah.
Jared. Didn't you eventually move in with Colin or no? That was something
No.
else. Okay, anyways, nobody cares. I care though that we're here talking and Josh, you were just telling me I wanted to kind of pick your brain about like how this new COVID thing is changing the industry. Both of us are in the counseling industry. You more so. You're like a big wig. And
I'm a little wig and I'm a little cog in a big machine.
well, and you were saying something about before we went on air, like about insurance. So they've just swung open the doors and they're just paying
Hmm.
for as if you're right there. Now, what's the difference? Like, why wouldn't they before?
Now that's a question I don't know the answer to, and I've kicked it around.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, some health insurance policies have telemedicine, telehealth benefits for mental health, and some don't. But um, COVID swung the door wide open for telemedicine across the board. So I mean, that's primary care physicians, psychiatrists, all kinds of folks are accessing healthcare through telemedicine. Um, I think that the
Yeah.
trouble is at some point the insurance companies are saying they're going to go back to pre pandemic status quo.
Well, interestingly enough, Sam Tenuto is checking in. He's my old boss. I used to be a kind of similar job that you no, his job would have been your job, and I was taking care of it. It was a crazy situation, but anyways, confidential, so can't talk about it. But he was my boss, and I think he was so glad to not have me.
To move you to friend status.
Yeah, but I really always appreciated him because he always had Sam Tenuto. Hey Sam, peace to you too, brother. God bless. I used to have Rush Limbaugh playing in his office. And so in the counseling industry, that was always like, I was like, like I know I've been listening to Rush since my dad played it when I was 5. And so when I'd hear Rush's voice, I just kind of follow the sound to Sam's. But back to what we were talking about. Do you think that is there any kind of ethical validity to not paying for people that are doing what we're doing right now? Like the difference between what we're doing, I almost feel like um, counseling on this in this sense is just as valid as just sitting across from somebody in a office.
It is. And to the best of my knowledge, the studies that have been done on it bear that out. Like the outcome studies are pretty equivalent. Face to face versus virtual, the outcomes are about the same. But it's different. Like I can tell you, talking with clinicians, they're like if you see 6 to 8, 10 people in a day virtually, there's a much greater cognitive load than if you were working with somebody face to face
There's a
because
greater cognitive load.
yeah, yeah,
Oh.
because you're using more of your prefrontal cortex. Um,
Mm.
then the rest of you can't read the whole body and you can't use your whole body and you're often having to explain things. It's just the context is different, but so
Yeah.
it's not less, it's just different.
Ah.
And yeah, why insurers have been hesitant to pay for it in the past, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I understood the answer to that question, because for a lot of people, it's an access issue. Um, in addition to it, it's expensive. So, right, therapy is expensive. If you've got copays, but more importantly, the access end is, most of the good clinicians you can only see between the hours of 9 and 5.
Yeah.
And if you're, who frequently has time to take time off prior to the session to drive to the session, go to the session, and then drive back to work, right? So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
Well, I remember actually, I heard somebody on the radio talking about how HIPAA really made it impossible to do very much doctoring over doing this because of privacy. Like somebody, I guess somebody could, I could be recording this right now,
You
and
could,
I mean, we're actually broadcasting right now.
yeah.
So,
So this is a public facing format. So yeah, the
yeah.
HIPAA and high tech would say no, you can't do
Even
that.
even during COVID, I think this is
Yeah.
probably not. You know.
Well, what's interesting is they relaxed the HIPAA standards
Hmm.
during the pandemic. In other words, as long as it's a private uh,
Like
form of
a Zoom,
technology. Hmm?
like Zoom instead of, because Zoom you can't really broadcast. I don't think. Maybe you
Well,
can.
you can't. And Zoom, yeah, Zoom actually has a HIPAA compliant format.
Ah.
I could get really geeked out on that one, but it's not all that interesting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Because you are like in the thick of it with this stuff and like
yeah,
finding out all
yeah.
this stuff.
We're in the thick of it. But here's the thing about telemedicine. I think it really has more to do with insurance. Doctors will do what insurance will pay for. So I'm going to use a great example for myself. I've been uninsured since 2006. Okay. But one of the things I learned about being part of the working uninsured was that cash talks.
Hmm.
I can go to the ER and receive a service and then turn around and go to the billing department and go, okay, I see that the bill says that this was a $1,300 ER visit. Now I've got an unspecified amount of cash in my pocket.
You show a little
How,
bulge.
yeah, like here's my wad, right? If I were to pay a cash pay for the bill right now, what would that number be? And I can tell you what that number is going to be. It's going to be a certain percentage above what Medicare pays.
Oh, it's gonna be above.
Yes, it can never. Anyone that accepts Medicare cannot accept less than what Medicare pays ever.
Ah, interesting. How
So
so for that, how much would you be able to get down? Like, how much would Medicaid pay for something like that?
oh, that's like depending upon the service. Man, it's like nickels and dimes and quarters on the dollar.
That's funny because I used to get paid by Medicaid, or they paid somebody who paid me, and yeah, I remember it being significantly lower.
Yeah, Medicaid and Medicare really sets the floor for healthcare.
Hmm.
But so for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, I have a cash pay concierge doctor.
Nice.
That's our primary care physician. I can email him, I can text him, I can call him. I The first year that we had Dr. Clark, my wife was cutting some turnips and sliced her hand. So, do we go to the ER? No, Dr. Clark comes to the house and stitches my wife up at the dinner table.
Get out of here.
No, I'm serious. That literally paid for the year. Almost. Close.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's what I like about cash pay stuff. Yeah, you get away from certain government regulations, but
Yeah.
frankly, I mean, it's
You
confidentiality. Funny thing, you can waive it.
you get more of a doctor patient care, cohesiveness, right? What is that called? Integration, rather than the whatever you procedure or whatever you get in service being a line, a bottom line on a piece of paper that goes to somebody somewhere and they pay it, whatever. It's you're bartering with the person providing you the care, right?
Well, yeah. Um, it, you also find yourself outside of, I've joked with people, for instance, again, back to the insurance companies. There's a reason why the insurance companies are projected to stop paying for broad access telehealth. This
Okay.
is my theory.
Okay, this is
Because
where we're getting to the meat here. This
this
is what I
is
want
good
to know.
for it. Well, because who else has access to data mine healthcare information more than the insurance company?
Politicians?
There's no one.
Okay. Yeah.
CDC, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
They get it. There's a lot of data,
Yeah.
useful data,
Yeah. I think you
that
hit it on the
gets
head.
that really gets sucked in by the insurance companies. Like they kind of have a problem. If anyone has a feel for when this should quote unquote die down, the insurance company does.
Oh man. Yeah.
You
Yes.
know,
So they have all the tech and Julie Spargarian says I teach on Zoom. She
yep,
says we're talking about is interesting. She thought it'd be about $200 for that,
yeah,
and she thought government just like me. Where is
Joe Rowe.
Joseph Rhodes? Hey, Deborah. He's taking a break this. Well, we took a break this week because usually I talk with Joe on Sundays, and that was a fun one.
Ah,
You remember Joseph, right?
you guys mentioned some stuff there from Dr. Elkin's class in Intro to Philosophy, and I had to really like go on a memory trip, and I was like, I could see Judah being a Jedi, yes, and Ford, okay. And then I'm like, but I was Darth Vader. Like I'm not feeling very Darth Vader like. But then it struck me. I think, yeah, I did have a black shirt and like a black pair of pants, and
Yeah.
pulled off like as much as one could Darth Vader in Intro to Philosophy. But no, Joseph Rhodes, I do not recall. Um,
Okay.
but
Well, he was yeah, he was on a different floor. But let's get back to what we're talking about as far as insurance. So what what can they do? They monetize that information? What? Just the power of having that information?
yeah,
What do they do with it though?
make decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
And it's there. It ultimately comes down to money.
They feed the algo
They
and
feed. They I yeah. They've got somebody working algorithms. I'm sure. Um, there's some bean counters, people smarter than me, looking at the data going, I think we should be able to wrap this up by Jan, give or take.
it it would be like if the who are those people called? Did you ever see Peaky Blinders, the show Peaky Blinders?
I have seen Peaky Blinders.
That's one of my favorite shows. But what are they called? They have that like room in the back where they take all the horse betting. They take the bets at the end of the show.
Bookies?
Bookies.
Well,
It's
bookies are.
like so insurance companies are like bookies that have way more information than any bookie has ever had, right?
Well, it's all balanced. It's just probabilities, right? I mean, it's just numbers. I mean, it's
It's
just like
true.
health insurance or even life insurance. You bust out the actuarial tables. Like, okay, if you pay us X number of years, and this is the benefit. And, okay, well, the odds are you're going to die.
Oh man. Well, I haven't had insurance off and on, so I don't have insurance right now. I haven't had it for off and on for I had it for 2 years because had a full time job.
Hmm.
But mostly I've been working for myself, and my boss doesn't want to give me insurance when I'm working for myself. He doesn't want to pay for it.
You got to talk
Um,
to your boss about that. Yeah. Well, and you know what's crazy, and I don't know. I've been part of the working uninsured for a long time, and I know everyone was very excited when the Affordable Health Care Act came into effect.
mhm.
Um, but ironically, I've referred to it as the Unaffordable Health Care Act because this is no joke. Like we were pricing insurance right before that bill was passed, and it was like we were income versus like what we would get and pay and deductibles. It was like right on the cusp of yeah, that's we could afford that. Like we can make that work. That would actually be a benefit to us.
Mhm.
And then as soon as that bill passed, it just
Yeah.
the numbers didn't work out. We'll just put it that way. And I've met a lot of people in the business I'm in where due to high deductible plans, they pay through the nose for their insurance, but can't afford to use it.
Yep. That happened to me. I partnered up with a guy to use his insurance to help. He used my man. Like I helped pay bills and help be another extra person, and we both used his insurance. Didn't help. People
Yeah.
would have these insurance plans to be like, we'd just rather pay cash because we still have like 5,000 deductible, $5,000 deductible. Like what?
Yeah.
Like you won't use that in a year with me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the nature of the big insurance plans. They really want a lot of people like you and me who can't remember the last time they went to a hospital. Um, you know, I can't really say the last. I do kind of remember the last time I saw my doctor, but that's because he comes by the house.
You lucky duck.
Now,
Maybe
as far as primary care physicians are concerned, concierge medicine is the way to go if you can find a
somebody who will
physician
come
that's
to your
doing it.
house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But how many people are still doing that? I mean, is this just a Tennessee thing? Because I have
No.
a sneaking suspicion that this is more of a
Um,
thing that Tennessee would be doing.
it's. I tell you, the first time I was introduced to it, and I cannot remember the doctor's name, but he was from the Midwest, like Kansas City, Oklahoma City, somewhere out there. And it was shortly after that the doctor that we've been seeing for a while came on the scene. So no, I mean, just if you get bored one day and type up, concierge medicine, and I want to say the group out of
Oh yeah,
the
give it a
Midwest
name.
is Atlas or something like that.
Concierge medicine, Chicago. Oh yeah, wow.
Like we basically have a subscription plan. So yeah, Atlas MD. I did remember this guy's name.
Okay. Ours is called in Chicago MD squared.
It's a different
Interesting.
different things going on.
Well, that's just a company. I wonder if. Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. It just makes so much more sense to have somebody you trust and care about come to your house rather than go to a place of disease and
Mhm. Or sometimes you may not even need that. But like having access to a real doctor as opposed to I called the doctor's office and I got to speak to the nurse.
yeah,
Not saying anything bad about nurses. Nurses are good. Nurses know a lot.
yeah,
But sometimes you just want to talk to the doctor.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just a peace of mind type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so is there a possibility that online, what did you call online medical, online care?
So I guess the
What's the
technical
technical
term is telemedicine.
telemedicine?
Telemedicine or telehealth. Um,
Telehealth. Yeah. Do you think there's a possibility though that the floodgates have been opened and it's going to be hard to put the cat back in the bag?
yeah, the cat's not going back in the bag.
Okay. But if
Uh,
insurance isn't covering it, maybe the cat will go back in
it,
partially. Or
partially.
maybe
I
it's
mean, yeah,
Schrodinger's cat and we don't
yeah,
know either way.
yeah. No,
I'm
I
thinking
think
too much.
too many therapists have gotten used to it, or will get,
Mm,
and clients have gotten used to it. So the demand will be there.
yeah.
And so someone or some organization is going to fill the void. And there's already been a number of online therapy groups like BetterHelp and Able to. I mean, there's a number out there that are entirely web based.
Okay.
Um, some of which accept insurance, some of which don't. But they're, disruptors in the mental health world. I think some people really didn't give them enough credit. Like, that won't affect us, but it. I don't know. I'm of the opinion it's going to shift a little bit.
I mean, maybe a lot of it, right? Like, I wonder if care providers like me will be able to charge a little less. But I mean, with the money we save on gas, with the money we save on time, um, it might. I mean, it just might be worth it just to not rely on insurance and to just charge a little bit less.
It's an option.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a possibility.
Problem for me is I don't really do this kind of therapy. Like I think it's good supplemental for me, but doing therapeutic mentoring is much more activity based.
Yeah, yeah. You've got to be there. It's just kind of like equine. You can't do equine therapy online. Like, let's look at this
Yeah.
video of the horse. Like, that's not happening. Um,
Right.
yeah, there. It's just, I don't know.
You could do it. You could do probably a form. Ooh, I wonder if you could do like a new form of play therapy with video game type stuff, or I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. That's way outside of my wheelhouse.
Your purview.
Oh, and I'm telling you, play therapists are my heroes because they are continuing education and personal development junkies. At least like registered play therapists. I mean, people that really have invested in their craft.
Mm,
Now, they're true believers. I mean, like, whatever model they're tied into. Now, at least all the ones I've dealt with and work with. Now,
hmm.
they'll tell you this is the way it's done. I don't know. But I do know this: they put their money where their mouth is, and they spend a lot of time and effort in training. That being said,
Yeah.
it's my understanding that they have been tinkering around with how to do some play therapy online, but I'm still waiting on the feedback after a couple of weeks
Yeah.
of us doing this to hear, like, how's that working?
Yeah, I wonder if
Um,
it'll spawn some kind of game therapy rather than play therapy.
so here's something interesting. While we're
Okay.
talking about online therapies, there is a particular form of I guess you'd call it. It's almost like interactive training, but it's PCIT, parent-child interactive therapy,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and very much a behaviorist model. So lots of positive
Rewards and
reinforcement,
yeah.
and but also solidly based in attachment science and other principles that come out of
Mm.
play therapy. So if you look it up, it's pretty cool. But there was a recent PCIT study that found that the outcomes doing PCIT online were higher than what was done in office. Now, if you read the study, they kind of downplay it. They're like, well, it's equivalent. Well, no, no, it's significant. It's statistically significant,
Ooh.
the increase. And the reason is at least talking with some other PCI people that actually do PCIT. I don't.
Yeah.
Um, you're working. Like the parent and the child are actually in their natural environment, and
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
happens is when you're coaching the parent, it's actually through like an earpiece. So the parents are the parent is practicing um, things that they've learned,
At
but it's
home.
at home, so not in the therapist office. And
Oh.
so the outcomes are better. Like treatment compliance is higher because people don't have to drive. They don't have to. It's just much much easier to implement.
Hmm.
So that, yeah, apparently, it's one of those things that, like, in some instances, it may not just be different and equivalent. It may actually be better.
Well, it makes sense though if so some people are chiming in here. And Janine is asking, "Hi Janine.
What is the
Thanks for
topic?
tuning in." Yeah, what is the topic? So we're talking about
This is not a
all kinds
show.
of things. We are not talking about anything. No, we're talking about therapy and insurance, and mainly, I think the common thread has been online. What was telemedicine?
Telehealth and telemedicine. Yeah,
Telehealth. Yeah, and how the industry for counseling, both I and Josh are in the field, and just kind of brainstorming, picking Josh's brain to figure out, because he's in charge, where I'm not. I'm in charge of myself, but he's in charge of other people and getting therapists online and trying to work out how to do that clinically. Man, it sounds like you've been doing a lot of research, and you've always been one to really be thorough. So, no, okay, I'll
we
take it back.
try. We try. I have, I have a deep
Yeah.
respect for complexity. And the older I get, I have a growing appreciation for humility and being able to say, I don't know.
Mm.
Or, hey guys, let's collaborate because let's be honest, we're just making it up as we go. So let's get as many heads together as possible and
Yeah,
come up with a plan and move forward. Um,
but so so the idea of play therapy, not play therapy, you called it something else.
so, yeah,
Parent.
this is a particular type of behavioral intervention, I think, for like children ages 2 through 7, younger children,
Mm.
increasing the bond between parents and children, the attachment, the quality of the attachment between children and parents. But
Mm.
it's called PCI. Well, the acronym is PCIT, so Parent Child Interactive Therapy.
Mm. Okay.
But no, they did a. There was a recent study that it's actually more effective using telehealth.
Wow. Well, that and it makes sense since it's in their own home, and uh, I didn't realize that the parent would have like like earbuds in,
Yep.
and so it's not even video conferencing. It's just more, well, I guess because the therapist has to see what's going
Correct.
on.
But yeah, you're using video conferencing to teach certain um, yeah, so it's
Skills.
essentially parent coaching, and then it's done
Yeah.
live with the child, like how to respond to the child.
And since they're in their own environment, playing with their toys,
But
they don't feel the pressure of being in somebody else's office, no matter how comfortable it may be. It's still foreign.
yes, yep.
So being in their own, yeah. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, why would they downplay it? What is this like?
I
I was
don't
good
know.
as
I'm not sure if that was a little bit of
cynicism.
yeah, it was a little bit of scholarly humility when whoever wrote the the article on the study as being equivalent. Um, but when you have, I think it was like there was like a 20% higher rate of um, positive outcomes in the study in a,
Mm,
in a therapeutic study. That's pretty significant.
interesting. That's hugely significant. Um, Julie said, "Oh, back I missed a couple here." She said, "I could." So for for my job in therapeutic mentoring, I could teach conversations, and that's a good point. It's just hard though to get some of the guys I work with. It's easy for some, but they already have the communication skills. Is the ones that don't have communication skills don't like to get on some. It feels a little too maybe, or their imagination of it feels a little too truncated.
Mm.
I don't know. And then Janine says, "Wouldn't it be more authentic if the therapist was in the home?"
Well, sure.
Now, so going to their office is one thing, but yeah, going to their home, do I guess was that another option for the obviously not during COVID, but
Yeah. There. So in-home therapy, to the best, that's not most of the time you see that in connection with community mental health.
hmm,
Um, but frankly, that's cost prohibitive.
going to
That's
home
really expensive
really
when you think about it. I mean,
driving around. I mean, yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's what I do,
yeah,
but
running around.
but to scale it is really difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, they do it here, but they have a thing. I forget what it's called. Specifically for young people with real young children with on the autistic spectrum. I forget what it's called, but they use a lot of ABC therapy,
Hmm.
and but I guess that's got to be on hiatus. I mean, I don't guess that's definitely on hiatus today.
I don't know. I don't keep up with too much of like the behavioral analysis folk um, that are working with the those with autism and other
I called it AB. I called it
issues.
ABC. It's called ABA. So Janine says she's had some
Yep, the BCBA's.
BCBAs.
Yeah, now those tend to you get a lot more in home therapy, and that's often supported by Medicare and Medicaid. Well, Medicaid, um,
Hmm.
and some insurers, because I mean it's just like occupational therapists do a lot of in home. Um, yeah, mental health. It's funny. Now it's funny that to bring that up. I've never really given up it. The only times that I hear about in home work, um, sometimes case management, a little bit of family therapy. Like in Tennessee, it's mostly like court referred family
Mm-hmm.
therapy or Department of Children's Services referred family therapy. Um,
Yeah, I around here, what I've noticed is it's not for profit organizations do a lot more of the
yes.
in home type stuff. But even then, so I worked for a huge not for profit organization that there was a lot of controversy over contact with the children, contact with because we worked with high schoolers. I
Okay.
worked for an organization called Youth Guidance. I worked for the Becoming a Man project, and we worked in the schools, but we couldn't have contact with them. It was strange. Like we couldn't contact them over Facebook, or we couldn't text them. We couldn't even
Yeah.
call them, and so it made the in-home stuff very difficult. Very difficult for me since I was working off a different paradigm, having being part of my, been working for my own, with my own clients and texting and Facebooking and stuff all the time, and then being told no, you can't have any of this communication. It I think it really paralyzed them when COVID hit because they didn't know what to do. They couldn't even get. And in a lot of the population we worked with, the parents wouldn't. They'd be changing phones. They wouldn't be a consistent phone. It'd be burner phones, basically.
Yeah. That's a struggle. Um, yeah, and that's I think part of the shift from kind of older, less technologically informed ideas around therapeutic boundaries
Hmm.
and multiple relationships, um, and well, multiple roles, really. I mean, like, when you're a quote unquote Facebook friend, are you really a friend in that sense versus um, a virtual acquaintance?
Yeah.
And it can become a method of communication that's perfectly appropriate. Like it's funny. Like, most of the like the APA, well, most of the mental health ethical codes um, are still of the position that, we should probably stay away from using social media with our clients. However, it's funny. There was a beloved therapist here in Bristol who passed away last year,
Mm.
and that man was Facebook friends with thousands of people, many of
Oh
whom
man.
I know for a fact were his client. Um, but Chuck just kind of did his own thing.
Yeah.
So, it begs some questions, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, what's appropriate and what's not. And
Yeah.
for many
Appropriate
people,
boundaries.
yeah. Um,
It's
and
tough.
yeah, surprisingly, in some senses, like the therapeutic field, the counseling and psychotherapy world is somewhat conservative in that way. Um,
In as much as, yeah, not letting people dabble in the new technologies or the,
yeah, we've been slow to get into telemedicine and telehealth and to use video. But COVID pushed everyone into the deep end of the pool.
yeah.
Yeah, because you're either
It's
going to do
interesting.
telehealth or you're going to go broke.
Well, so my wife works, Chan, I think she her main job is teaching Chinese kids English. So they're actually in China, and she's
Yeah.
just kind of like that. She works for VIP Kid. I'm sure a lot of people heard it. I don't know. And it it changed. It fundamentally changed her process and her reach and her efficacy with her students when she got WeChat, which is like, it's like the Asian version of WhatsApp, or something
Hmm.
like that. And she's constantly texting. I guess you'd call it texting, messaging parents, and they're messaging her like, "Hey, can we get a class at this time?" And and to me, there's some overlap boundaries wise. Like you talk about taking work home with you and stuff like that. It's, but she manages it pretty well. But she also has more of a friendship with her students than I don't know. Than I think a typical, definitely more than a typical conventional counselor would have with his clients.
Interesting.
And I have more of a friendship with my clients than I think would be comfortable for any conventional counselor.
Huh. But I think there's room for that. And that's the you know yeah. There's room for that.
It's funny though because it really ruffles the feather of old school counselors because I'm friends with all, like, past, present clients on Facebook, and one of my old clients like ran for office somewhere, and I was like super excited about it, and he put it on Facebook, and I tagged my old boss. She was like a director, and she she did not take well to that. She just deleted that right away and did not want to have any part of
Well, and
that. Yeah, and I just didn't think about it when she did. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah,
yeah, it's a struggle. And I don't know where. Well, I sort of err. Personally, I err on the side of caution.
yeah,
That's me. Um,
that's
but that
that's
also
wise.
fits me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it leaves room for more exploration because there are no long term studies on social media use.
That is true.
There are no longitudinal, lengthy longitudinal studies about the effects on, a whole host of professional and relational issues. It's just let's be honest. We don't know.
Which is a total different subject, but I just wanted to get your quick take on a lot of what people during this COVID thing, like trying to figure out the COVID. Everybody wants to leave it to the experts, and I get that. Nobody wants
Sure.
Judah's opinion, right? Yeah, I mean, some people are curious what crazy thing I'm going to say, but isn't there some validity to saying that scientists are not to be there's trouble with scientists doing any kind of prognostication because scientists work so much better in retrospect and with a lot of time and repetitive testing, right?
Hmm.
So it's like trying to make models and trying that's actually a economist's job, right? Or something like that.
Well, I mean, good science has a predictive quality to it.
Say more.
I guess my struggle is that people assign a level of authority to science that it doesn't deserve. It's ultimately, especially behavioral science, it's probabilistic. And I mean, frankly, even like when we're talking about epidemiology and viruses, that it's changing. It's a moving target. Um, and the sad thing is, I have real struggles with media sources.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have time to hunt down the real truth.
Vet vet everything, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's just so I think people have to make reasonable choices. Like right now, a reasonable choice for me because I can afford to do it is I work from home. It'd be a different conversation if I couldn't. At that point, I'd have to take risk and reward. Like, okay, well, what are the risks of this behavior? Well, I could get sick, or I might not. Like you got to weigh that out with the rewards. Well, if I've got to go out and if I work at Lowe's and that's where I work, and Lowe's is open, I'm taking a risk by going to work. But the reward is I get paid. I think it's the same thing with local economies. I mean, at some point we're gonna have to open it back up. It's just a question
Well,
of when and how.
I agree. And to me, and getting back to the idea of telehealth, is there an aspect of doing too much telehealth in the sense of missing out on the human connection? So it's very useful and I
Yeah,
think helpful and good, and we should do more of it. But there could be the other spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is that we never leave the house, and
that's true.
that's not healthy.
No, that's not functional. It's not going to work. Though I'm pretty convinced that for a certain part of the population, it's going to take telehealth to get out of the house. I mean, that's going to be the way people get out.
Yeah,
They're going to need help getting out.
yeah, you're right.
Um, some people are going to continue to use telehealth because it's convenient. Like I know for a fact,
Yeah.
I've polled my clinicians, and they're like, "Wow, I had a couple of people come out of the woodwork because this works for them. Like they can make this work." Where previously they had to stop coming to sessions because the access issues were too high.
Hmm.
Like
But so right now I have one client who I want to respect his wishes, and him and his family just want to, and for good reason. He has some. He probably is a little more vulnerable to the virus as he gets older and stuff. And so I I've been seeing him really just through video, and but the difficulty for me is that the biggest part of my impact on him, I think, was getting him out of the house
Yep.
and
Movement.
giving him that interaction that he is getting. I have to say, there is some good, like we're doing right now, obviously. But like you said, it's a completely different part of the brain, and there's so much we're missing out on
Hmm.
as far as growth and expansion of functionality.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a limited experience. It can be helpful. It's there's limitations to it.
And it's more
Um,
conducive to intellectual discussion.
yes, yeah. If that's where the work is, like cognitive work,
Mm-hmm.
it's great. It's a
Cognitive.
great place to do it. If you want to work on your
Mm-hmm.
beliefs and thoughts, and sure, it's great.
Yeah.
So and that's the hard part is, and I go back and forth because there's an aspect of talk therapy that has nothing to do with talk.
Mm.
It has a lot to do with how you resonate with somebody, your presence. I mean, we're talking about the interaction between two nervous systems, and that happens in real time and space when you're in a
And
room with
spiritual
somebody.
systems too.
Yeah, yeah, that happens in real time and space when you're in a room, and you
Yeah.
can't replicate. Well, let me rephrase it. It's very difficult to
It's
replicate that.
approximate. It's
Yeah,
approximate.
yeah. By video and virtually, it's close, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I could be sitting here in my underwear and you wouldn't even know.
And that would be okay because you would feel very free. You'd feel very very open. Uh,
Oh, mercy. Well, I want to wrap things up. Don't want to go too long because I might want to edit this later. And I hate editing hour or more hour or longer videos, and because I'm always like, God, it'll take about 15 minutes, but I actually have to watch the whole thing for now.
yeah,
So,
so it's yeah much longer than it took you to make it.
exactly. I really appreciate your input on this, Josh, especially since I mean you're an expert right now because you're in the
Yeah.
thick of it.
Frontline soldier, maybe expert. No.
What's the difference?
Oh, I don't know. It's like Trump and Fauci. I mean, it's one's an expert. Okay, that's not true because he's not even a soldier. So, one's an expert and one's not.
Like I said, what's the difference? But moving along. So to wrap things up, how much do I owe you?
This is all
45 minutes.
free advice and worth every penny.
Wow. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, Josh, I hope we can do this again soon, not go so long in between conversations.
Yeah, maybe
Got a
this
lot.
might become a habit or a routine.
I wouldn't mind that. Maybe I'll stop texting your phone from Virginia or something. And
Yeah, my old house
so,
phone.
oh man, I'd like to go through the comments, but there's just too many. They started coming fast, furious. So, uh, but a lot of people saying nice things. Grandma's on, saying she has a handsome grandson. Thank you, Grandma. And my Aunt Joe. So, we'll spare the people my accolades. But
The fan club.
Josh, it's good talking to you. It's good to have somebody to bounce these ideas off of. Not that I don't have other people, but you're particularly fun to talk to about this, and I enjoy it.
Well, always a pleasure to talk with you, Judah. Well, I'll do it again.
All right.
Well, brother, have a good night.